In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Graphilo notebook. I'll go over the specs, I'll do a paper test, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about the notebook coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. This is the Graphilo notebook from Kobeha. This is a Japanese-made notebook that has paper that is specifically designed for fountain pens. This has a 7mm rule. It is a A5 Slim size. In the US, I've only seen the A5 Slim available, but I know in Japan there are more formats in the Graphilo line. Now, it comes in ruled, blank, and grid. There are 94 sheets, so you get 188 pages. They do not provide any information on the paper weight, so I'm not 100% sure what it is. My guess is it's something around 90 GSM, but I really don't know. On their website, I translated with Google Translate the Japanese, and what it says is that the Graphilo notebooks are for those that like to write big and wet with their fountain pens. So that's saying something pretty serious. This paper had better be really awesome. That kind of statement means that they had specific intention that this is going to handle big and wet fountain pen nibs. In the Google Translate, I couldn't quite understand everything that they were saying. They said that this is sort of like a combination of a coated and uncoated paper, so maybe it's a semi-coated paper, but I don't know. I guess what I would say is the performance feels like a coated paper, but it has texture like an uncoated paper. So yeah, I guess that's how you get that kind of semi-coated thing. Let's go to the back here. It just says 210mm by 120mm, so it's that A5 Slim size. It's 7mm lined, 188 pages, made in Japan, blah, blah, blah. Let's take this off. It's they call it a semi-hard cover. It's kind of like a stiff cardstock with a coating on it. It feels nice. You have this kind of two-tone minimalistic look to it with Graphilo and this little squiggle up top. It's about 12mm thick. It feels pretty nice quality. On the edges here you can see that some of the cuts, some of these pages are a little bit proud of the others. Not really a big deal. So you get this Suito blotting paper, which is kind of an indication that this paper is a slower drying paper like you would expect from a coated paper. In terms of features, there aren't really any features here. It's just line pages, edge to edge, 7mm. That is it. There's nothing else other than that. You get a stitched binding with 12 signatures, and it lies pretty flat without too much effort. You know, it's a pretty nice quality notebook. And I should say it's a very expensive notebook. This is $36.50. So my expectation with the paper in this was really, really high because it was super expensive, and they said it's made for big and wet fountain pens. So let's go to the paper performance. And you can see on the other side, I didn't use that blotting paper like I should have, but you can kind of see that, you know, you have this pooling where the big pilot 6mm nib overlapped, and we kind of got this sheening and shading there. And you have lots of shading on this Mont Blanc, a bit of shading out of the Lamy. The Sharpie, you can see there's a touch of feathering there, but other than that, there's no feathering on this page at all. This didn't feather, and this Pilot 6mm always feathers. So that the face of this looks pretty close to perfect. And if we look at the back of the page, let me turn this light off. There is basically zero bleed through. So you have a tiny bit of spotting on the Copic, which always bleeds through, and a tiny bit of spotting on the Sharpie, which always bleeds through. Nothing from the fountain pens. Nothing from any of the other pens. This is probably the best fountain pen paper performance I've ever seen, honestly. This is significantly better performance, in my opinion, than Tomoe River. The Tomoe River does bleed. It's not impervious to bleed. This paper has a nice texture to it. It doesn't feel, it's not super smooth like a typical coated paper. And it has more of a weight to it. I know I said 90 GSM before, maybe it's more like 80. You do get show through. Definitely there. Although if you look, it's not really, it's more distracting here before you've written on that other side. I don't personally find it too obtrusive. And you can just see the sheen on this ink. Pretty cool. This is Diamine Festive Cheer, which is a sheening ink, I believe. But yeah, the paper performance is really good. And you know, you do see ghosting. These are big, wet nibs, and there's no getting around it. You do have ghosting, but I think it is less ghosting than you get from Tomoe River. So it's $36.50. Is it worth that? I can get a pretty nice Tomoe River notebook for $20. Is the performance of this that much better? Well, I think if you want to write with really big and really wet nibs, then yes, this is significantly better. This is pretty much the best fountain pen, well, even for the Sharpie and the Copic marker, best performance I've seen out of a paper in a notebook. The paper is pretty much amazing. I wish that we had more options for the format, and of course I wish that the price was less, but this is pretty much perfect. The only thing that you gotta worry about is the longer dry time. Yeah, pretty amazing notebook. It's a luxury notebook, but if you like wet and wide nibs, I don't think you're gonna find a better paper than what's in this Graphilo notebook. So what are my pros and cons for the Graphilo notebook? In terms of pros, I think this notebook has some of the most fountain pen friendly paper I have ever used. There's no bleed through. Even the Sharpie almost had no bleeding. This is super paper performance. It is so good. And I much prefer this paper to Tomoe River, which I do like very much. But because this is thicker, it doesn't have the serious ghosting that you get with Tomoe River. I also think that this paper has a nice texture to it. It's not glossy smooth. It's just a really, really nice paper to write on. You get good shading, good sheening. It's really awesome. I do like that they include a blotter sheet with the notebook, because this paper does take some time to dry. I would say it does dry faster. It's more absorbent than Tomoe River, but it's still on the slow side in terms of dry times. I also really like the binding. It lays flat with very little effort. I like the kind of soft cover or smooth cover that this has. It has a very minimalistic, you know, not drawing any attention kind of look. Now, in terms of cons, I already mentioned slow dry time. The biggest con, though, is the price. This is $36.50. That is almost, normally for an A5 notebook, I expect the price to be somewhere around $20 in a hardcover. In softcover, $10 to $15 is more normal, I think. So this is really expensive. It's a luxury price, and there's no luxury pretensions here. It's not a Mont Blanc notebook. It doesn't look like this. It's pretty plain. And then the other thing is the size is a little weird. It's, you know, about an inch and a half narrower than an A5. I find that I like this format, but if you want to try to find covers, this is going to be more difficult, and it's just less of a standard size. So I think that is a drawback. So that is the Graphilo notebook. Do you guys have this notebook? Do you like this notebook? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much, and until next time.